Hello and welcome back everybody, this is Mystic Games. Today we're going to be doing a Northgard video. We're going to be talking about food efficiency, and we're going to be talking about iron versus stone, and the efficiency there. So we're going to start with food, because I think that's the most important thing to get you started. I've done tutorials and kind of like builds and playthroughs if you guys want to watch something on that, like an overall how to build. But today we're strictly going to talk food. So this is probably one of the most important resources, especially in the beginning of the game, is to make a supply of food so that your people don't starve. And along with everything like crowns, everything is actually important to the extent like you need to make sure you have some of everything. I think food is one of the most important to kind of have a stockpile, because otherwise you start to starve, and starving is just bad. Wood tends to not be a problem, and you have more access to wood in the sense of you can build lumber camps anywhere. Whereas food, you cannot. So, one tip before I go into food efficiency, which is the main point of this video, is you might have a tile, which you can see I just clicked on this, it highlights the inside of the tile. This one has wheat, or fertile soil, which is essentially wheat, where you can build a field. And it also has fish right here, where I just highlighted it on the map for you guys. So you can build a fisherman's hut here. These tiles are generally very good because both these foods are relatively efficient, and they are actually, one is essentially fish is like the winter food and fields is the summer food, and they are both actually very powerful comparatively, whereas deer is kind of the mediocre middle ground food. So yeah, so when you find a spot that has two types of food, it's quite nice because it can just be a straight up food tile. You don't have to worry about building anything else there really. That being said, you also always want to eventually build food silos, and then if you have the resources, I would recommend that you upgrade said food silos to increase production, because I think it's initially 10%, and then honestly off the top of my head I can't remember if it's additional 10% or additional 20%. But either way, it increases food production from both of the specialized food on the tile. And it also increases your food storage, which is extremely important. So now we're going to get into the actual efficiency of food. So you have fertile fields, which is the summer food. It has extremely high yields during the summer and then low yields during the winter. Winter is the shortest period, and generally fields overall has the highest food output. So fields is generally arguably the best food source. The only time that you have to worry about fertile fields is if you don't have storage and you're not producing enough during the winter, where you're going to burn through your whole food storage. Because technically it doesn't matter if you're burning through food, if you're negative on food, until you hit 0. So that's a big thing to know. Most resources, they aren't important until you hit 0, but food, interestingly enough, I would actually is arguably worse to be losing than wood, because like wood you can still build buildings, so having positive wood I would argue is better than having positive food. And I simply say that in the sense that you're not really using food as a direct resource as you are using lumber, if that makes sense. Anyways, I'm getting slightly off topic with that. But you never really want to be negative with anything. And that's what this video is about. So, generally, fields is the best food overall production during all seasons. Because even during the winter, as long as you collected enough during the summer and fall and spring seasons, you will have food. And they don't calculate those 3 seasons differently. They're all just one amount. So we'll just use the number. I think it's 5 without a food silo, and I think it's 5.5 with a food silo, if I'm correct. I'd have to actually get on and play to see that. but I'm pretty sure I'm right there. I don't know the exact numbers for the fish, but I believe fish, which is the next one we're going to talk about, is 4.25, and I think it stays at 4.25 during the winter. Fish has the lowest yield, but overall, because of the yield remaining the same, you don't have to worry about food fluctuations during the winter. So if you see your food during the other seasons and then winter hits and you're using mostly fish, you're going to not see your numbers dip as much as long as you're not using a lot of villagers for food, which you generally will not be doing that. If you are using a lot of villagers for food, you're being inefficient, and you need to figure out where those people can be going to support your, colony. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but we're going to talk about deer next. Deer are the middle ground food, but when you look at the numbers overall from the winter change, because it does get a reduction in the winter, it actually produces generally the least amount of food. So normally when you have options, unless you're really getting hit bad in winters, you normally want fields first, then fish, then deer as your specialized food. So if you have the option and you don't need to take all three for whatever reason, that's generally the way you want to go. I always like to have fields early as my first starting zone because it's just solid, and when it has fish there already, I'm just a happy camper because I know I'm going to be able to get fish up and going, and then once winter hits, I have a stable source of food and a less stable source of food, but a source of food that once winter ends, I'm going to generally be able to fill my food silos up and get that extra use of this extra storage there so that during winters I don't even have to worry as much. Whereas deer, they're alright. I do like deer. I think it's cool, the hunters running around shooting. And I also think for a defensive purpose, having the archers is actually slightly nicer than having the fishermen and the farmers, because you do have ranged units, because they use bows, so they do fire from a range, which allows them to reinforce your military units on tiles, which is a little bit nicer than I would say farmers and fishermen do. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about food. Just make sure you build food silos on them as you advance. Upgrade them. Upgrade your people working on them. We're going to get into that conversation in a minute here, because that's the next conversation we're going to have. But as the game progresses, you want to either upgrade them or upgrade the people, and then if you have the ability, you want to do both. So we're going to start talking about that situation, which is stone up here, and then we have iron. So stone versus iron. This is not a perfect system, and you're not always going to have access to both kinds. Sometimes you might have more stone, and sometimes you might have more iron. Normally you spawn in with one of each, essentially, and then as you go out, it's usually not guaranteed. I personally prefer stone, and I'll explain why that is. So stone requires you to have a mine, just like iron. Iron needs to be refined in a forge, where it requires smiths, or a smith. Normally you want two, though, when you're doing it, just to speed it up, to make better tools, weapons, and relics, which is solid. Relics are very nice. Stone, on the other hand, you collect stone, you click on a building, like the brewery, and then you upgrade your brewery, and it increases the efficiency of everyone on that brewery by 20%. So if they're providing 1, they now provide 1.2. And that's multiplied by 3, so it'd be 3.60 would be your number with 3 guys there. Now again, I'm not using the exact numbers, but what I'm getting at is you just put them there and they get the buff from you increasing the building. That's why I like stone. Stone's very simple. You upgrade the building, you get an additional slot, it upgrades it by a certain percentage, you put another person on there, they get the 100% bonus plus the 20% from the upgrade, and you have an extra person working. Normally, I would argue you don't mind using additional villagers on support buildings such as food, happiness buildings, all of that. Very rarely would you need them for a military. I mean, unless you're playing someone that's in very close race with you, you're going to be putting your extra villagers on these buildings anyways. So upgrading them via stone is just very easy, and it just makes sense. Now the issue with iron is that you can upgrade like your farmers, so that all farmers from now on, no matter what field they're on, they get a 15% production increase. The problem with that upgrade is that you require time, and you require 2 other people that you need to put on there to forge the upgrade. That is, I consider that a weakness, because it does take resources and time. Not only are you mining it, but instead of just being able to click on the building, hit the upgrade button, and then send another person there to do it to get the increase, you need to send 2 people here after they mine. So as you're mining or after they mine, you need to have 2 people here, so potentially 4 people. And then you need to have them start working on the upgrade, which takes time, to then get the upgrade for everybody. The only benefit is that once you have the upgrade, it will affect everything, whereas the stone only affects the building that you upgrade. And I guess if you look at it in a PvP sense, you normally only have to worry about the advantage to iron is you wouldn't have to worry about them taking your tile and then taking the zones that you upgraded for themselves. Normally that doesn't really happen because people don't expand that close, but it is possible. That being said, I am more of a stone guy, and I would recommend that you upgrade via stone, and that should be your focus if possible. But again, this is a resource game, and you're not always going to have stone. You might have more iron. It's just kind of how it works. I would tell you, if you have the option to mine stone over iron, normally I choose iron, or I choose stone first. I normally will build, in the beginning, I will build mines on both spots as soon as I'm able to fund having the mine built and don't have to worry about the additional crowns. And I will usually work both. And the only reason I do so is to get the iron from my war chief. And then I pump out my war chief, I take the extra 10 iron, and I usually just hold it until I decide that I have the ability to build a forge and put my people there. If I start to run out of things to mine, whether it be stone or iron, that's normally when I go, okay, this tile has a spot, I don't really have anything to do with it, now I'm going to drop a forge, because I have this iron, I have 2 guys that are essentially miners that I don't have another job that they need to do, and I will put them on the forge and then start making either a relic with the other 10, if I didn't find another node, and then I will normally either build a relic or I will upgrade a combat unit and a specialized food unit or a lumber unit or a crowns unit. It all depends on what my economy needs at that time. And I would always recommend that you mine at least another node of iron before you even worry about a forge. But that's just me personally. I don't like to even build a forge until I've at least acquired the first, usually 15, plus then an additional 20. To make it worth my time, because then I can throw them all on there, upgrade, and queue, and I don't have to really worry about it until they're finished. Anyways, that's really all I have to say about food, and all I have to say about iron versus stone efficiency. I hope this helps some new people out. I really love Northgard. It is a great game. I enjoy it. And I hope that other people get into it, because Shiro Games deserves a lot of love for this game. I think it's been fantastic, and I think they put a lot of effort into it. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoy raiding the coasts and a little Norse mythology. I'll see you in the next one. Later.